Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Riverfront. This is episode number 424 of, this not even mildly dangerous podcast. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. Right next to me there, you can see your friend and mine, Nate Dotson. How are you, Nate?
I'm fantastic. Not much to complain about here in Redsland these days, and I'm excited to be here and talk a little baseball with two distinguished gentlemen such as yourselves.
Well, there's one of us that's distinguished, and it's not me. And I could not be more thrilled than to have our old friend back on the show. Jason Linden has been on the show as often as anyone other than me, I guess, probably over the years, and thrilled to have Jason back with us to discuss a topic that's near and dear to his heart. But first, Jason, welcome back. Good to see you again, buddy.
Think that it's good to be here, though. I will note, as a note of protest, I think you're the only one here old enough to be distinguished.
Extinguished, I think. Extinguished, almost. I'm closer to that.
Love it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm the distinguished gentleman here, I guess. But so good week for the Reds. Actually, every week we come on the show and we talk bad things, and all of a sudden the Reds win 2 series in a row, and as of right now, they're winning again tonight against Pittsburgh. And so so far, bullpen hasn't got a chance yet to do anything, but. As awful as the season has been pretty much since day one. And Jason, I'll kick us to you first. Even when they're playing awful and they have no chance really, it's still fun for whatever reason to watch them win series. I still enjoy it, I guess. I don't know why.
I mean, if they're playing, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I watched an inning for a couple of weeks there. But they win a couple of games. It's like, oh, okay, they're a real baseball team now. Again, time to pay a little bit of attention. It's been nice to see them win a couple of series. It's been nice. I just said to my wife that, like, you pull up the in-game box score and all of the batting averages look like they should look for about this point in the season now, which is not a nice change of pace. It's not a bunch
right.
of 140s and 095s and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about time. 2 out of 3 versus the Pirates, and then 2 out of 3 versus the Milwaukee Brewers. A couple of those games were ugly, but they were wins, and the offense started to show up a little bit. And so the Reds, with that wonderful 4 wins in 6 games, now are 7-24.
Whoa.
On the
you could have left that part out.
I heard that we're only 2 games behind the Tigers.
Oh. So we're making our way closer to 29th.
29.
Nate, I'm going to kick this to you to talk about the single most exciting part about recent days, which is this young catcher that came off the injured list and is just unbelievable. What's that guy's name?
Aramis
Garcia. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my goodness. Tyler Stephenson, who I think I have tried to become the charter member of his fan club, trying to initiate a bromance over the interwebs. This guy's the real deal. As we're talking about this, he just hit a solo home run a couple minutes ago to put the Reds up 2-0. He had the other RBI also. I think we all were pretty optimistic about Tyler Stephenson going into this year, but he has just made it look like, don't get me wrong, Tucker Barnhart's fantastic, but if he was eating into Tyler Stephenson at bats, then that's an issue. This guy has been electric.
Well, I don't want to go too insane about what he's doing because, yes, he is hitting, what is it now, 344, 1,037 OPS. But now we are just talking about 70 plate appearances. But still, it's not like this is a guy who – it's not like a Kyle Farmer getting hot for a month and everybody thinking, oh, he's great again. This is a guy who, when he's been healthy since day one, he's a former first-round pick, and he's just – and I've been saying it. I said it all last year. He'll make more All-Star teams than Jonathan India will. Not that I don't like Jonathan India, but wow, he just looks like a fully formed hitter already, and it's kind of amazing to watch. Jason, you got any thoughts on Tyler?
He has an awfully pretty swing. That is, and he started to show up on some list I've noticed on social media. He's getting into that how many catchers around baseball have done what he's done kind of things getting tweeted out, and it's nice, he hasn't had that many plate appearances at the major league level yet, but he's had enough now that we really start to feel like we've got somebody, who's gonna, maybe he'll be what we always hoped Devin would be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'll say. I was telling Chad that Tyler Stephenson's swing, he swings the way that we talk about Hunter Green's fastball. It's just effortless and pure.
Especially for a righty. Righties don't usually have swings that are that pretty. He has a very pretty swing for a righty.
His approach is incredible. He sprays the ball all over the field. That awesome gap power. I'm pumped. We all know he's a handsome man. Absolutely date my daughter if I have one. Like I'm ready for it. I'm all in.
Wow. Okay. Slow your roll there, Chief. Okay. Getting a little excited there. No, it's fun to watch. And the Devin Mesoraco comparison is interesting. Not because they're similar players necessarily, but Mesoraco, a high draft pick who made an all-star team, had one of the best individual single seasons as a for any Reds catcher not named Johnny Bench. And of course, injuries stole his career. But yeah, so maybe this is sort of what we expected out of Devin Mesoraco, was this, 10 years of being one of the best catchers in the league. And I think he could have done that if he'd have stayed healthy. And with Stevenson, again, it's going to be health, knock on wood, but he has every opportunity to be that. He's just, I don't know what other superlatives we can use. He's 25, so he's still young. And again, I think he's fully formed and love the guy.
Yeah. I mean, as of this recording, I think he's first or second pretty much every major offensive statistic for catchers league-wide. He's top 15 in most of them through all position players. Small sample size caveats, but I'm excited.
I should have mentioned this earlier, but Joey Gaditza had our first viewer mail question of the night.
Oh God, it's actually viewer mail now too, isn't it? Put our faces on things just so you could win that argument. That's why you pivoted to video, Chad.
It is. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
I hate when you're right. I hate when you're correct about anything. So I had to pivot. Oh, someone later on during the viewer mail did make a point to call it listener mail for your benefit. So because I told them that
respect me.
That's right. Yes, the OGs. But one came from Joey Gaditza, and we've already really answered it. But hey, guys, how good is Tyler Stephenson? We all agreed he'd emerge as a leader on this team, and he has delivered. So yeah, we already talked about how good he is. But then I do know that Nate, you found an old clip of Tyler Stephenson. Where did you find that?
I don't know how I stumbled on it. I was just Googling like Tyler Stephenson's stats. Oh no, I was on his Wikipedia page, and it said in personal info it had, the only thing it mentioned was this going viral for this bat flip in 2015. I was like, if I couldn't like this guy any more than I do, let's see this.
So he's like in high school, and Nate, you need to tweet it out, or we'll try to tweet it out on the Redleg or the Riverfront account. And it's just, I guess, in high school, and this epic bat flip. So that's how perfect he is. He even does a great bat flip. Couple other big things this week to discuss before we get into the topic of the show, which you might, or if you have seen Jason's shirt down there, you might have already suspected what that might be. There we go. Two other people I want to mention. Number one, Luis Castillo back this week, and I mentioned that I like Luis Castillo. Looked pretty good in his debut.
How nice is it to have a pitcher come out and just know that it's gonna be okay? I mean, I love the young kids, and I'm excited for them to come into whatever, but sometimes learning is hard. Sometimes it's good to have somebody out there who doesn't have to learn. They already know.
Right. And I thought we had another guy, Tyler Malley, who's not been that this year. And so we've really had no one since day one here that wasn't kind of in that learning process. So, yeah, Luis Castillo goes out on the mound, and he wasn't perfect in his season debut, but he was good enough. And it's just he looked fantastic. The changeup still looks great. And so happy to see Luis Castillo back. The other guy I think we probably should mention, because we've taken our hacks at him on this show over the past little bit, Mike Moustakas, since April 28th, which I think is when he came off the injured list. He went back on for like one day in the meantime, but 365 batting average, 469 on base, 561 slugging. That'll do. It's literally the first, and we're talking 2 weeks here or something, not even quite 2 weeks, but it's the first 2 weeks that he's been good as a Red, basically. So that's something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we went back, we could probably find a stretch where he was okay. But yeah,
Nate, did you notice how Jason could not just say I was right about something? He had to just contradict me just a little bit there.
I mean, have you gone and looked at every 2 week span since he's been a Red Chat? Have
See,
you? Have you? No, you haven't. You forget that I'm a
Oh.
teacher and I need you to cite your sources. Listen, it's the end of the year. Do you know how many papers I'm grading right now? Do you?
I do not mess with this man.
Yes, but I regret already that I've been pushing him to come back on the show. I already regret.
Come back, Jason. Come back. Fine, I'll come
Never
back
again.
Well, my stance is feelings, no facts. I will not fact check anything I say. And I've said plenty of harsh things about Mike Moustakas since joining this show. But my goodness, he's just been knocking the cover off the ball. It's weird because I've never seen a hitter pull out. Like, he swings at the ball and his head, his entire body is over in the first base dugout. I don't understand. Like, he's everything I was ever taught about the baseball swing. It's like he does something different. But when it's clicking, man, he finds a way to put the barrel on it. And he has not clicked very often, but he is right now.
Plus, he's an elite athlete.
Big time jersey model.
Let's leave him alone. He's playing well, and as a matter of fact, it's been a big key to what has been going on with the Reds in recent days, and these 4 wins in 6 games, which is terribly exciting, frankly, given what we've had to watch before. So, him and then Tyler Stephenson behind him. That's been a big reason the Reds have put runs on the board. So kudos to them. Can we talk about a guy who was not in the lineup right now? He is currently on the IL. It's a guy named Joseph Daniel Votto. Now, let me just a little background here. I mentioned it briefly here on the show, I think, but I wrote a feature piece for the print magazine, Cincinnati Magazine, about Joey Votto, and they actually pitched it to me. Hey, let's write something about. We want something about baseball for opening day, so why not Votto? I said, okay, and then they kept pushing me to make it. I was just going to be why Joey Votto is great, something like that. And they kept pushing me to make a hot take, basically. And so the title ended up being why Joey Votto is the greatest Red of all time. Now, I tried to make the case in the piece, okay? And I think you can make the argument, actually. I think I got close to it. I'm not sure I quite believe it, but it was in the most recent Cincinnati Magazine. But it will be, by the time you watch or listen to this episode, it will be live on the interwebs at CincinnatiMagazine.com. And go take a look at it and give me your feedback, as long as you're kind, and tell me whether I came close to making the case. Now, Jason, you've been notorious for Coffee and Votto is one of my favorite ongoing gags on Twitter, where Joey or Jason in the morning just talks about Joey for a little while. And so I thought for sure this idea with talking about Votto for this episode would appeal to you. Why don't you just tell us your thoughts on Joey Votto?
Well, if there's ground worth trotting multiple times, it is this. I think that, and I've been kind of making the case for years on this show, on, various websites and on Twitter and such, that he is, I don't think there's really much argument that he's the greatest hitter in Reds history. He just is. Whether or not where he ranks in terms of player, I mean, that kind of depends on what you think about defense and how much you pay attention. Because all of the other guys in the conversation play premium defensive positions, and he didn't. And the most remarkable thing to me, and I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been on, so I wasn't on. Was I on at all last season? I don't know that I was. I don't know that we've talked in any case.
I don't remember.
The most remarkable thing to me in his entire career is what he did last season. I was at the point where I was like, okay, we're late 30s. He's solid. He's a little bit above average. That's fine. That's what you expect from him. And then he's like, you know what? My old approach isn't working, so I'm just going to hit home runs now. And what is he? He's elite again. Like, is he top of his game prime Joey Votto? No, he's not. Like, the overall numbers aren't there. But he's, now once again in the conversation for the best first baseman in the league, which he wasn't for a year and a half or so. And to be able to do that is just remarkable. I mean, and it really, I think, showcases something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. And, you kind of made a joke about Moustakas earlier being an elite athlete. But it is easy to forget sometimes that everybody on the team is an elite athlete. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Joey gets talked about so
Absolutely.
much for his brain, right? For thinking his way into being how good he was, which he absolutely did. But then when he couldn't, that process wasn't getting it done anymore, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to stand up straight and knock the cover off the ball every time, which I guess you kind of knew he could probably do, but thinking somebody can do it and then seeing them do it is just incredibly remarkable, especially at his age and where he is in his career. It was just, frankly, wonderful and shocking to see. And I really think it solidifies his cases for sure. I don't think anybody can argue really about greatest hitter of all time. And boy, if he, when he comes back, which he was on Instagram showing rehab clips earlier, so I think that's on the horizon. If he manages for these next 2 seasons to carry out the hitting, excuse me for a second, Kentucky in the spring.
Yeah.
I think he might actually really start to be in the conversation for greatest player ever. Especially when we talk about playing his whole career for the Reds and that kind of thing. It's going to be really interesting. I can quote Joey Votto stats for days and days and days, as you know, but what he's done the last, season and a bit just is amazing to me. Just completely remarkable.
Yeah, the 100%. And Nate, I want you in just a moment to wax poetic about Joey as well. But I just have to say that what you're saying is exactly why I felt like I could make the case as best player in Reds history because of what he did last year. And yeah, some people are going to say, all right, he's awful so far this year. And yep, he has been bad in his 90 plate appearances this year. But I'm long past the point where I'm ever going to doubt Joey Votto. So he gets the benefit of the doubt. Nate, what do you think?
I think that if Tyler Stephenson can marry my hypothetical daughter, then Joey Votto can marry my hypothetical sister. I don't think it's any secret how much we love the guy around here. The conversation is he the greatest Red? And I think, there's arguments to be made for a handful of players. But the fact that he was with the Reds his entire career, I think that puts him above the likes of Joe Morgan, who's barely in the top 25 for games played as a Red. What you guys just mentioned, you would have considered him sort of a stubborn player. He's like, it's my way. I'm successful at hitting because I do it this way. And I learned it from Ted Williams. I learned it from all the greats by studying, and I'm not going to change for anybody. And then just to wake up one day, I'm sure it wasn't one day, but and just think, maybe this thing that I have been trying to perfect for the last 15 years is no longer going to work for me. I should change the entire approach and then become elite at it. That quickly is one of the most impressive things I remember seeing on a baseball field. I think that if we can get a healthy rest of this season and hopefully a healthy 2023, and he just pads those stats a little bit, it's going to make your argument look pretty solid.
Well, I'll say this: what was interesting to me, and I got a chance to talk to Votto for the piece, interview him, and he really deflected any of this talk about best, I asked him what his thoughts were about being mentioned in the same name or the same paragraph as Morgan and Bench and Robinson, and he was very, very, he was honored to be mentioned with those names, and he was, very complimentary of all those players. But he made a point every time I tried to redirect it that way to say, but I'm not finished. That's why we can't have this conversation yet. I'm not finished. And I don't believe he's finished. And Jason, I presume you don't either.
No, I really don't. I'm really hoping that as we get to kind of the end of next season, that we're looking at him breaking Bench's home run record.
Mhm.
And I think it would be really cool for him to be the first player to hit 400 home runs in a Reds uniform. I think that's possible. Um, what I think will be really interesting, like incredibly interesting, that this would take us down a different path that we might not want to go on today, would be to see if he hits this year or next year like he hit last year. And then the question of the option comes into play. What does
Is there any
ownership do?
is there any chance that Castellini will pick up that option? They wouldn't pick up Wade Miley's or Tucker Barnhart's, but Joey Votto's
Well,
not Wade Miley or Tucker Barnhart.
Well,
they wanna get-
especially, do you pick it up if it's a circumstance where he's, say, 2 homers away from Bench, or where he's a couple away from 400? Like, what do you do?
They might be able to market that. What do you think, Nate? What do they do?
Yeah, if they want to get back in the fans' good graces, they say, "Listen, Joey, we'll give you 1-year deals as long as you want them." It's like a couple caveats in there. Your OPS plus goes below 100, then okay, we get to talk. We get to get back and sit across from each other at the table. But I don't want to talk about the other side of the coin, because if Joey Votto puts on another uniform, I'm gonna go take a cold shower with my clothes on. It's gonna be terrible.
Well, that's actually something I wanted to ask both of you about. As bad as the Reds are right now, it feels like they've done a disservice to Joey. And
I agree completely.
And so, would it kill you to see Joey Votto playing for another team, but get a chance to play in the World Series?
Me, no. I would be happy for him. I would just be a fan of that team until Joey retired. Like,
He would have to play in the World Series for it to be okay with me, though. If they trade him to some wild card contender who loses in a play-in game or something.
I would love
be
to
just
see
as-
him go get 500 plate appearances with Toronto. I mean, that team is so fun and so exciting,
They
and
are
it's still on
fun.
the East Coast, so I could watch them easily.
And it's his hometown team. I mean, what a story it would be.
Yeah.
What if he comes back from the IL and leads a 36-game winning streak, and the Reds win the World Series?
Now you're talking my language.
Listen, we just won 2 series in a row. Anything can happen.
What's the record? Did the A's get 22 or whatever it was in a row?
That sounds right to me.
The Moneyball A's, 21 something.
Would that get us back to 500?
If they win the next 17 games, they'll be at 500.
Okay, well,
Gotta
there
win.
we go then.
All right,
Go on an 8 streak, they're above 500 and probably went leading the Central.
First we passed the Pirates, then the Cubs, one step at a time.
But no, I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, I definitely had moments of hoping the Reds would just go ahead and trade Joey. Because I don't. I mean, I guess we can, talk about fairness, and it's not like he's not being fairly compensated, or and so on and so forth. But at this point in his career, there's more to it than that. And I know you all have talked about it. I'm not going to go down the ownership rabbit hole, but I mean, for somebody who is, the reason that a generation of Reds fans have had to watch the team, to go from being fairly competitive to just fire selling like that on that guy it's just inexcusable.
As close as they were to being able to put a really, really competitive team on the field. Because you're right. Think about those, Jason. We talked about it every week or two back during those 90 lost seasons. We were constantly talking about, well, if nothing else, we've got Joey Votto to cherish every day. And some years that was the only thing we had. And they couldn't do it. And you're right. They've paid him. It's not like he's not been compensated for being here. But just when you're so close and he's at the end of the rope, maybe try to win just to give that guy something, a feather in his cap.
And I mean, he's so especially this year, but he's always been this way. I think the people who are surprised by his social media presence just haven't been paying attention. But he's so easy to market, and how easy would it be to throw out a win one for Joey campaign?
Right.
I mean, my God, but again, the Reds,
Are the Reds.
Reds couldn't market beer in Germany.
Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
So they proved they couldn't sell $3 beers and $2 hot dogs in Cincinnati.
Did y'all see that? $3 beer, $2 hot dog night, and they ran out by the fourth inning. I mean, come on, guys. It's just and they couldn't have had. I don't know what the attendance was, but the attendance was not that great for that game. But yeah, I've been boycotting Castellini, the Reds under Castellini until he's gone. But if they'd have just said, you know what, we're going to make one last push, and even if I didn't agree with all the moves they made, or because Nick Krall is never going to get everything right, but even if they didn't do everything I wanted them to do, but it was legitimately a push to win one for Joey, I think I'd be all in for that. I think I would be right there at the Great American Ballpark once again. Oh, well.
It's always the trade deadline.
Well, I worry this year at the trade deadline that I don't think Joey's going to be gone, but I guess we should talk about something else that was in the news this week. Actually, before we do that, Jason, any final thoughts about Joey, though? Because I did want us to spend some time just kind of cherishing him. And I used in my piece, I used one of your favorite stats, because it's absolutely my all-time favorite stat. The guys who've led the league in on-base percentage as many times as Joey has, and it's your inner circle, Ted Williams and Barry Bonds. And
I think that that's the one, I think, Joey fact I can take credit for discovering. And I remember specifically, like, I was sitting in a coffee shop one day and I was just looking at his stats and I was like, how many people have done that? That's a lot of black in the OBP column. And so I just pulled up Baseball Reference and I just started looking, and I was like, oh, okay. This
Legends.
It was for an article I think I wrote for Cincinnati Magazine, arguing that he was a Hall of Famer back when people were still marginal on that. A lot of people were, and I found that, and yeah, I love that stat so much. And I think that, one of the things that I would say is everybody who's had the privilege of watching Joey Votto's career, don't forget that as good as he is now, he was better than that for a long, long time. Like, that's how good he is, right? That he's like the best, one or two or three best first basemen in the league right now, and still not even quite touching absolute peak Joey.
Yeah, it was also true 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's just
the longevity is ridiculous. So remarkable. I love that. The knock on Joey for all this time was that he took too many walks. He didn't knock any guys in. Third in team history in RBIs.
I mean, yeah, and it's hard to, you all know the argument. It's hard to knock guys in when there's nobody on base.
There's nobody on base.
Exactly. He didn't have Mike Moustakas sitting in front of him all those years, like Tyler Stephenson does. No, I just think I was worried is not the right term, but when it looked like Joey might be starting that age-related decline in 2019 and early 2020, I thought, well, what's going to happen here is he's going to not be good here towards the end of his career, and people will get mad about how much money he's making in combination with just I get recency bias, I guess. They would remember this Joey and kind of forget how special he was. And so if nothing else, that 2021 season was, even if he didn't reach those heights, he's going to be way better than he's been so far this year. I have no doubt about that. But even if he doesn't reach the heights of last year again, it still reminded everyone, oh yeah, this guy is just different. He's made different. And that was the season where I think everyone was like, okay, yeah, this guy's obviously a Hall of Famer. There's no question. It took that season.
I think the last thing on Joey, and I think this was my favorite off-season, preseason quote, whatever. I can't remember which preview it was, but I was reading some season preview somewhere where they, rank first baseman across the league or whatever, and the Reds were pretty far down. And I was like, this is weird. So I was scrolling down and figuring out, and they, blah, 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 aging curve, so on and so forth. And they had a quote from a scout that was like, yeah, no, this ranking is stupid. We all know Joey's going to outperform his projections. Like, come on. Right. We all know what's going to happen, so just rank him appropriately.
He's Joey. Kudos, Joey Votto, always a favorite of this show. Okay, so Nate mentioned the trade deadline earlier. I don't think Joey will be getting traded at the trade deadline, but Peter Gammons this week dropped this tidbit that the Reds are evidently still shopping Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle. And so next viewer mail question. Again, these viewer mail questions come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where you too can join the family. Jerry Saduth says, if the rumors are to be believed and the Reds are shopping Castillo and Mahle, what kind of return would be reasonable to expect? Well, here's what I would say. First of all, I fully believe that the Reds are shopping Castillo and Mahle. I have no doubt in my mind that that's happening. Should it be happening? No, but I have no doubt that it never stopped happening. In terms of what kind of return, okay, well, what kind of return will we get if we had a competent general manager? And what kind of return will we get with Nick Krall pulling the trigger? Two different questions. So I'm not even willing to guess how the depths that Krall would drop to. But either of you have any thoughts about Castillo, Mahle potentially being traded? I think at least one of them, I've been saying this for a while, at least one of them are gone at the trade deadline. And probably it's Luis Castillo is my guess. I don't know. What do you think?
I think either of them getting traded has to yield at least one, possibly more than one, top 100 prospect who is effectively big league ready, as in less than 2 years away from the big leagues. None of this like rookie league, A-ball, none of those.
Lottery tickets. Yeah.
Right. Especially because, and this is a thing I've started to kind of casually worry about in the deepest recesses of my mind. We've got Green and Lodolo up now. Right?
Yep.
So that window on them is open. And with ownership behaving like it does right now, if you're aiming to put together winning teams with them, you can't trade for guys who are 3, 4, 5 years away. Because if you do that, then by the time those guys are starting to be ready, then all the Reds who are still bad are then shopping Green and Lodolo and so on and so forth. So any guys that we get in trades at this point have to be of the high floor, high ceiling type.
I'm with you. Here's what I keep coming back to, which is that yes, Hunter Green is this stud prospect and shows every bit of the potential. We're seeing every bit of it. Man, I want him to be emulating Luis Castillo. I want him to be emulating that change up and the way Castillo. He can be better than Castillo. Of course, that's saying a lot. I'm not going to predict that because Castillo is awfully darn good, but he could be better than Castillo. I like having him. I'd like for Castillo to be able to kind of mentor him a little bit. I don't know, Nate. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I got a couple of thoughts. First off, it was nice of them to defrost Peter Gammons out of his cryo chamber so he could send out that tweet. Thanks for the brilliant insight. Yeah, they should. I won't say they should be shopping them around, but they should certainly be taking every single call. I mean, if you're the general manager, listen to what people have to say. But come trade deadline when people are getting a little desperate, that's sort of the time when these moves need to be made. I think that's kind of like what Jason was saying for Castillo. He means so much to this team. His attitude, his flair. I think it's more than just the statistics. I think you need at least one real blue chipper, MLB ready blue chipper, and then some organizational depth. And I think you get a little more for him than Mahle. But even with Mahle, like I said, top 100 prospect at least, maybe two of those for Castillo. And it's tough. You don't want to see those guys go. They could be cornerstones for a long time, but knowing that this ownership isn't going to pay them. I mean, what do you want? Did you sit on them and let them walk the way they did Wade Miley? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the question becomes, when do they see themselves being competitive again? And my guess is the answer that Castellini, Krall, and company would give you to that question, when will the Reds be competitive again, is long enough in the future that keeping Castillo around probably doesn't make much sense if you can get something for him. I mean, if you trusted this front office to properly manage this roster, then you'd have to say, yeah, well, okay, maybe you can make that case. I don't trust them. So, but if you're going to trade them before, while they're still valuable, unlike what happened back in 2013 and 14 when you waited too long to trade some guys. and 15, waited for the All-Star game, and you didn't quite get as much for him as you could have. So I don't want to talk about that. The Reds are only 17 games under 500. Why are we talking about stuff like the trade deadline? We got an exciting team to watch. What's the score now? Let's see here.
Still
2-0. All right.
You know, we've got some real talent in the organization, but most of us just chilling at Double A and below. I mean, I'm ready for the Matt McClain era. So if is it 2 years before the Reds might be that team that that young team that sneaks in? If that's the case, you make a trade, you get some AAA guys that are ready to come up soon. I don't know. I don't want it to happen. I would much rather keep Castillo and Malley, but we need some people that are ready to play the big leagues soon, some prospects in that range. So if they're going to do it, I think that's what they need to target.
All right. So transactions from the week, quickly we'll run through some of these. Nick Lodolo was supposed to return, but has a sore back, so he remains on the injured list. But supposedly was throwing on the field before today's game, as was Jonathan India doing some pregame workouts. They should be back soon. Aristides Aquino's cleared waivers. Reds outrighted him to Louisville. The Reds called up Joel Kuhnel and designated the immortal Robert Duggar for assignment. So we thought he was going to have the shortest Reds career ever. But, he cleared and went to AAA, and they brought him back up today when the Reds put Lucas Sims on the injured list and optioned Dari Moreta to Louisville. So Robert Duggar and Jared Solomon return. I know you all are terribly excited to talk about all those, but maybe not. Mike Minor went on a rehab assignment and looked pretty good in his first outing. Going to get at least one more down there. We might get him. He's not a superstar, but he's a legitimate major league pitcher. And after watching Reaver San Martin ply his trade in the big leagues, I'd like to see a legitimate major league starting pitcher. So any thoughts about any of that nonsense before we go to viewer mail?
I would just toss one thought in here. I think we've kind of seen where Aquino is going to land. He kind of seems, unfortunately, to be a 4A player. But something that I've noticed, and part of this is just around the result of being around the Louisville team a bit down here, is that sometimes the Reds don't hold on to guys who would be good org guys. And Aquino, is like a few years ago was Hernani or Ibarra, and who they really should. I mean, he should be coaching in the system now. He was briefly. I don't think he is now, though. They had, was it Jermaine Curtis, who would have been a great guy to keep around. Aquino is that kind of guy. He has that kind of reputation. He's somebody who, if I were the Reds, I would want to keep him employed. And I would want him around my younger players coming up because he's so renowned for having a good attitude and being, frankly, very coachable. I mean, he's just running up against the limits of his abilities probably. But he's somebody I would try to, entice into sticking around as much as I can. And I agree with Chad. It'll be nice. The more major league pitchers we have in the rotation, the better. Aquino's a 4A player, essentially. I mean, he went back down to Louisville, hit a couple of home runs pretty much immediately. I mean, what I think should happen with Aristides Aquino is the Reds need to encourage him to grow a big bushy mustache, and he can become the next Corky Miller and just play for Louisville forever. Just keep him there and let him play out his career there, and then come up to Cincinnati occasionally if the Reds need a fifth outfielder at some point because of injury. That's what needs to happen. So, good vibes only towards Aristides Aquino.
Hey, some breaking news. The Reds just had their first pitcher of the 2022 season go for 6 innings. Reds Connor Overton.
Just as we all predicted.
This is big news. I think the stat I saw was the first team since 1893 to not have a starter go 6 through their first 30 games. So, the Reds.
I'm not going to lie. The first time I popped in to check the score in whatever the first game was that Overton pitched for the Reds, I looked and I said, who?
I missed that transaction.
Yeah, I had completely missed that. I'd missed the trends because they were busy being terrible, and who wants to pay attention?
Right.
And now here he is, with his currently 1.62 ERA. All right,
third straight good start. I mean,
yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean they had the doubleheader that day, and the scheduled starters were Connor Overton and Robert Duggar, and I was like, really? were the worst team in the league. This is before the current, run of vast success that we've seen, 4 wins in 6 games. That was at the very bottom of the barrel. And then Connor Overton came in and he pitched that first game and they got the win. And then the Reds completely punted on game 2 for reasons. But what was funny about that game too, Duggar was scheduled to start and then he didn't. And they had another reliever. Maybe it was Moretta started that game. I can't remember who it was actually now. Yeah. And they asked David Bell after the game, well, what's the deal there? He's like, well, we didn't have a starter. And I saw somebody point out that they've known about this doubleheader for weeks and they could not arrange to have an actual big league starter on the roster for that game. That's on Nick Krall right there. That's just completely on Nick Krall.
He popped on the broadcast a couple games ago and had some comments. He's like, have we done enough from the free agency and trade standpoint? Maybe not. Oh. Yeah. You don't say.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. All right, let's answer some viewer mail questions if we could here. Before we do, though, we have a new member of the family. We have to assign a position on the beer league softball team. John Alleman. I presume that's how to pronounce your name. John Alleman. Now, Nate, John wants a position on our beer league softball team, the Riverfront family's big beer league softball team. What John Alleman? What does that sound like to you?
Man, I'm going power hitting third baseman. And you ask me why? I have no idea. Feelings and no facts.
I was going to say first base. A lefty hitting first baseman, sort of in the Sean Casey mold is what I was thinking for some reason. I don't know why, but or you know who I'm thinking of is John Olerud is the name that reminded me of. So John is going to play first base. He's going to bat left hand. He's going to wear a helmet in the field.
A helmet, yeah, I like it.
Yeah. What do you think, Jason? You got any objections to?
It's funny. I was thinking power hitting first baseman.
But
like in the old school, 220 batting average, but 38 homers.
Okay.
I like this.
Like the 80s.
Love it. All
right, big jaw, red man in his jaw.
You got it.
Exactly. John, thank you so much for joining us here on the show, and look forward to seeing you at our next beer league softball game, which will be our first. First question comes, again, all these questions come from our friends at patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. First comes from Joseph Prince, who says this to begin his question, listener mail. Yeah, that was for you. He calls it listener mail, Jason. This is all your fault. I haven't heard those words on this show since probably the last time you were here. It's been glorious. But his question is this, who gets
misery back into your house, Chad?
I appreciate that. Who gets traded first is the question. Who gets traded first? I think. Go ahead. If anybody wants to jump in, go ahead.
I got a take for you. Tommy Pham.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't think about him.
That was my answer. 1 year deal.
That's a 1 year deal. It's a low. He's clearly a rental. He's clearly looking to, get paid this offseason. He's getting his numbers. Somebody's going to want him down the stretch.
Pick the very moment that somebody has a big injury in the outfield and he's playing well, and go ahead and I was going to say something else, but I agree with that. Nate, what do you think?
That would have been my number one choice. Number 2 is Brandon Drury. If he keeps hitting the way he has been, I don't imagine that he was in their long-term plans.
Yeah, well, none of these guys are in their long-term plans except for
Drury doesn't have any history though. Like Pham is a documented good player who is clearly in the wrong stadium.
First off, I will not accept this Brandon Drury slander with his 147 OPS plus. He's a legend.
Okay.
He's maybe been good sometimes, occasionally.
He had some moments with the Cubs, but yeah, I mean, it's not like Pham who was close to being a star. Although I tell you this, before the season, I talked with a buddy of mine. I'm going to admit now that I have a friend who is a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and I know it's awful. And I said, what do you think about this Tommy Pham? I think that's it's not where I would have gone this offseason, but after they sold everybody else and they were, down to minimal options, I don't mind having Tommy Pham. And he was like, oh, I hate that guy. For some reason, certain Cardinals fans despise Tommy Pham. I don't know what it's about.
Probably a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's you mention it
in his corner.
I want to sign him to an extension. Yeah.
Keep liking
So-
him.
Yeah,
I mean,
Strong facial hair game, playing pretty well. Cannot date my sister.
Fortunately, you only have brothers. So,
Can't date.
all right,
him
next
with
question. Next question comes from Rich Thompson. Rich asks, is this current Reds team / roster stacked with more less than memorable and unremarkable players than any 80s era Reds team or roster? Now, the Reds this year do have a bunch of guys that are future obscure former Reds. I mean, they're all over the place. Drury's going to end up being one of them probably. Colin Moran, although I like him a lot right now. Jake Fraley, Aramis Garcia, Matt Reynolds. I mean, who's that guy? Albert Almora. JT Riddle, the immortal JT Riddle. Let's not forget his 2 games with the Reds. And, of course, the whole bullpen. And so that's pretty unremarkable. Man, you look at like the 1982 roster. Man, come on.
this isn't the. I mean, this is not a great team, but this is not the '80s teams. I mean, this is not the ghost of Mario Soto's arm and the ghost of Johnny Bench's knees, and then whoever else you can, convince to come over from whatever bars next to the stadium to play.
Yeah. As much as I kind of wanted to see this team beat the Reds' all-time loss record, and they still might. The 1982 team lost 101 games. They still might get there, but I can't see, especially once everyone gets healthy. This team is just not nearly like those teams to me.
It's hard to imagine a team that features, India, Stevenson, Votto, Pham, Castillo, Malley, Minor. Like, that's not a team that's going to lose 100 games, barring something weird.
And don't forget that we have Max Strock coming off the DL about midway through the season.
Exactly.
Point taken.
Just pump that into my veins.
Yeah, the starting rotation 1982 actually had pretty good seasons that year, although a couple of them weren't that great. Now that I'm looking at it, this is the 1982 team that lost 101 games, the most losses in Reds history. Soto, Mario Soto, one of my all-time favorite players. Bruce Berenni, the immortal. Frank Pastore, and an aging Tom Seaver, who was not good that year at age 37. But just look at that roster. Dwayne Walker, Larry Bittner, Mike Vail, Tom Lawless, Dave Van Gorder, Rafael Landestoy. Go look at his 1984 Topps card if you want to see the peak athletic condition of a baseball player. Rafael Landestoy, 1984 Topps. Michael Berry. Oh, Clint Hurdle. Gross. And, of course, Wayne Krenchicki. So
Chad's favorite.
Legend.
The legend. So yeah, Rich, this is not worse. But there are some obscure former Reds. Connor Overton, frankly, I hope he continues to be the ace of the team, but
I do not hope that he continues to be the ace of the team, but I do hope he continues to pitch this well.
Exactly. The way you phrase that is much better. All right, next question comes from James Urban. Finally, a fun week of Reds baseball. No question. Just wanted to say that because, man, it was great.
Yes.
Go Reds.
Yes.
Can I just say this? I hate to do this, and I don't want to, I don't want to, rain at the picnic here, but how sad is it that winning 2 out of 3 against the Pirates, and the Brewers are a good team, but that feels like a world championship. And on Nate's whiteboard back there, I think he's called it a world championship. Should we feel sad about the fact that this is kind of fun?
I think the whole point of baseball is for it to be fun.
Yes.
And when it stops,
I put it on the tee for you, Jason. I put it on the tee for you. You've said this a million times here.
When it stops being fun, go do something. Like I said, where I didn't watch an inning for a couple weeks, I was busy having fun, and watching baseball was not fun. Like, don't dedicate your time to something that makes you miserable.
Exactly. And when they're playing off them and we're sitting here talking about them, we're trying as hard as we can just to laugh and have fun, because, again, if you can't find something to laugh at or some way to have fun, it's really, of course, I don't know if you're listening to Reds podcasts at the, when they were 3-24 or whatever, maybe you have a problem, but but that's exactly what I was going to say, Jason. Yes, have fun. Enjoy every Reds victory, because you know what? That was a good night to, have a beer and watch a ball game. Nate?
Yeah. we're fans at the end of the day. I mean, we did a really good job of having a lot of laughs, at least, while they were playing horribly. But man, at the end of the day, we are fans of the Cincinnati Reds, and when they're winning, life's better. They're winning right now, quite literally, and over the last week.
Still winning right now? You got that on in front of you?
I mean, they got a 2-run lead, and Heath Emery's on the mound.
And they got second and third. Oh no, it just ended.
I just got out of a jam.
Still 2-0.
Yeah, I like when you said Heath Embry's on the mound, but he wasn't on the mound for the Reds. That was a good thing. We didn't acquire Heath Embry, did we? Then I missed it.
Who knows?
Straight up for Tommy Pham.
After I said that, I thought, uh-oh.
We're gonna wake up tomorrow morning and with the announcement that David Weathers is now our middle relief.
Oh gosh.
He just got out of that half inning, so
he can be in when his son
like,
makes his debut.
Noted Reds killer, Heath Emery. I'm like, but he killed him while playing for him.
Right, exactly. We got to get that guy. Oh, man. All right, Hooper Powell. I predict that the Reds will end up with more wins than the Pirates. Do you see that happening? Well, at the moment, not including today's game, the Reds were 2 games behind the Pirates in the standings, I guess. And so if they win tonight, I was looking for that. You're right. The Cubs are 2 games behind the Pirates. I forgot how to look at standings. The Reds are 6.5 behind the Pirates. Yikes. 5.5 if they win tonight. But do we see the Reds overtaking the Pirates in the long run?
So my goal for this year, as a viewing fan, is overtake the Pirates, overtake the Cubs, and make a late season run to get somewhere near the Cardinals. Now, it's going to require the Cardinals to flounder a bit, which I'm always rooting for. So the answer is yes, they're going to overtake the Pirates.
I like your optimism.
I think they could win more games than the Pirates. The Pirates are pretty terrible. I think the Pirates have played over their heads a little bit, and they're 13-7. So
yeah, they're actively terrible.
Yeah, and actually, when you want to talk about bad ownership, bad management, the Reds do not have it. We think we have it bad. Pirates fans really have it bad.
They really do.
Yeah, so I don't know if they will, but I like the idea that we get to September and we can have a fake standings where we're just focusing just on the Reds and the Pirates in the standings, and the Reds trying to overtake them down the stretch. That'll be our playoff hunt.
It's the race for third.
Exactly. Oh, be so exciting. All right, last question here, and we'll get out. Comes from our friend Seth Shaner. Seth says, "Today's my birthday. Happy birthday, Seth."
Happy birthday.
Says, do you think the Castellinis care?
No. We do.
I mean, care about their profit margins? Yes.
Did you buy a ticket to today's game? If so, they care.
Right. They would have cared.
Actually,
we care without your money.
I don't think they actually care about ticket sales. They've already made a profit based off the TV money this year.
Would they like to have the place filled, Gary American Ballpark filled up? Yeah, because that's more money in their pockets. But they're not dependent on that, as I've been saying for weeks and months. And that's why baseball is basically screwed up, because there's no incentive for them to care about you, the fan. And so, so you should. What's the one
incentive? Don't poop in the truck.
Still the greatest thing that's happened in my lifetime as a Reds fan. Actually, we think it may have happened. I don't know. They,
they replaced the truck.
They changed the truck out. They replaced the truck out there. So somebody may have defecated back there.
We're going to become a conspiracy pod, and this is our first one. The truck got pooped on.
That Reddit post is still, I'm still laughing out loud about it. Oh, man. Oh, the Reds. Jason, why are you still a fan of the Reds?
Genetics.
We were born into it. We can't help it, right?
Yeah, I didn't really have a choice in the matter. And then I went and married a Reds fan, and then when the Reds were good for a minute, my son bought in full bore, and it's just there's nowhere else to go. If I'm gonna like baseball, it's gonna have to be the Reds.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard anyone say. Where are you going to go?
Where am I
Right?
gonna go?
Let me ask you this: your son, I bet his favorite player is Jonathan India. Am I right?
I think it's India's top 3. It's Votto is number 1.
Well, okay. Again, he was born into it.
But he does. My son has his hair grown out long and likes to play second base, so Jonathan India is up there. And then last year when he had a broken arm, Ty Steve signed his cast. So it was the only person he would let sign his cast. Nobody else was allowed to. He got Tyler Stevenson's signature though, and a little piece of the cast is still cut up and sitting on a shelf upstairs.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
See, those are the things. Those are the things that a baseball player can do that he will never forget it. Tyler Stevenson's going to be
a Tyler. Like every time Ty Steve comes up, he's like, "What's he doing? What did he do?"
Yeah.
If he didn't see the game because he had to go to bed or whatever, what Ty Steve do last night? That's probably the player he asks about the most. So yeah.
I guessed Jonathan India because everyone that I know that has kids around the age that your son is. I don't know. It's like Jonathan India is the guy these days. I bet they sell more of his jerseys than anyone in Cincinnati.
He's very fun to watch. I mean,
yeah.
I can't wait to watch him.
Yeah, please get on the field. Nate, you got any final thoughts for us tonight?
No, this was fun. I think the big takeaways here: Tyler Stephenson is awesome, and hopefully we get to root for him. As long as the other big takeaway. Joey Votto, I mean, we're lucky to have had him in our lives as long as we have, and hopefully we get him for a little while longer.
Absolutely. Jason, any final thoughts about Joey Votto or anything else?
Lucky to have him in our lives is the best description I've heard for what it's like to be even anywhere near the periphery of Joey Votto. Just that his light shines on us from any distance like a faint and glowing star. You feel lucky.
It's absolutely true. And I don't know if I remember if I've said this here before, but the thing about Joey, when the really short interview I did with him, and fortunately the Reds I can't believe the Reds worked that out, media relations department, so that I can interview him. This was before the billboard. But at the end of my conversation with Joey, I thanked him for taking his time, and he said, and he very sincerely, thank you for taking time to talk with me. I mean, it was just the most sincere thing. He's just pure. And I'm glad that we are living in Joey Votto's world. Oh, now we need him to get back on the field and get back to being Joey Votto.
It's coming.
Sooner rather than later. It is coming. Absolutely. All right. Well, guys, this was so much fun. Jason, thank you so much for coming back on. I'm going to keep bugging you. You're welcome anytime. I hope this isn't your last gasp on the show, because this was a blast.
Oh, you'll probably get me around every now and again. I almost forgot how much fun it was to make fun of you. So,
see, we have a long history of him mocking me mercilessly, and I don't know why we're still friends. All right, this is the Riverfront episode number 424. I'm Chad Dotson. He's Nate Dotson. That's Jason Linden. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever if you listen to audio podcasts, we're there. We're also at YouTube, youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy. Go there, give us a like, and smash the subscribe button, okay? Smash that subscribe button, and you're not going to want to miss an episode of this. Why would you? It's amazing. This is incredible content. Just glorious entertainment. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Every place we are at Riverfront Cincy. All right, gang, loved it. For Nate Dotson, for our old buddy Jason Linden, welcome back. And for another old friend, Heath Hembry. This is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.